Bethesda lied, how unexpected. Gaming is just a battlefield for political ideologies to take place in, and here we are, once again.
Android Wilson as Bob Iger's successor, the next CEO of Disney, sure, why not?
I mean, it can't really get worse.
The last month or so in gaming has seen a lot happening. The Silent Hill 2 remake was actually a lot better than I ever anticipated. Apologies to Bloober, I didn't think that they had it in them.
Same, actually. I was very fearful for the remake. But, well, as long as people are happy.
Red Dead Redemption finally made it to PC, a feat that felt like it would never happen. 343 is now Halo Studios and making the move to Unreal Engine. Don't think a rebrand fixes their issues, but it is something.
Don't think anything can honestly fix Halo at this point. It's a relic of the past that people just like to remember, but it's pretty dead.
I guess. Unknown 9, Awakening, the start of another what was envisioned massive franchise flopped so...
Unknown 9! Banana, coffee, banana! Oh god, I love this. So good.
badly, to the point that nobody even knew or cared it existed.
I knew. I cared. I talked about it. Oh yes. And by the way, there is a potentially new extremely woke mess on the horizon. Potentially, because there are a lot of red flags. But about that maybe another day.
And a miss. Bandai Namco, the publisher, seems to have invested quite a bit into it, and maybe not too surprising that they have now been hit with mass layoffs and games being cancelled. Ouch. Sony's 2024 resume continues to take a few massive hits, with Until Dawn's remake being met to universal disdain, with the overall sentiment being that the quote-unquote upgrade was not enough and didn't justify its steep price point.
Well, of course. Remakes of games that don't require remakes at this point are just them trying to make a little bit of money because, well, when everything is failing, when everything they do is, well, the equivalent of a fucking shitstorm, then remakes are kind of an easy way for not too much input to get potentially a lot back out. That's why every company wants to do remakes, because they're pretty struggling with their woke agendas not selling. Surprise, surprise.
LEGO Horizon Adventures also released to a very soft reception, with many critics just not understanding who this was made for and why it was.
Soft reception? I actually thought that this LEGO game is not going to actually do that bad. Wow.
Made. It's quite clear Sony is attempting to push Horizon as their big family-friendly franchise, but it just isn't clicking the way that I think they hoped for. Some of the reviews were absolutely brutal. PC Gamer gave it a 49 out of 100, saying insultingly short for its price, but that might be its one saving grace considering how derivative it feels. And Eurogamer gave it a 2 out of 5, saying too simple and childish for adults and too one note to convert the kids. LEGO Horizon Adventures does little to recommend it to either existing Horizon fans or series newcomers. So
that is, by the way, an insane thing. The fact we have kind of messed up on one thing as society, and we are responsible this, even the woke people are responsible for this, and it's the fact that we kind of currently really demanding that games that are specifically targeting children and made for children are honestly made also for us and everyone else. Okay? Listen, I enjoyed Life is Strange. Am I a woman? Arguably, but not. And I enjoyed my brutal teenage lesbian bully simulator a lot. It wasn't supposed to be made for everyone, and it wasn't. And not every game is supposed to be made for everyone, and that is absolutely fine. Some games are targeted actually for children, as strange as that is nowadays, considering the legal age probably should be pushed to 25 at this point, roughly, because fuck me.
Sony's hopes of a big family-friendly franchise on the scale of, say, Microsoft's Minecraft or Nintendo's Super Mario and Pokemon also lied very obviously with Concord, the hero shooter that was years too late to a crowded genre with downright horrific character.
It wasn't years too late, it was just cringe on every level. Every physical level, every metaphysical level, and somewhere deep down in hell, Satan himself said, shit, this is a little bit too bad for me, even.
design and a $400 million historic flop that only lasted 2 weeks and didn't even manage to hit 25,000 sales before.
And the best part, the developers thought that they're making something that's gonna dethrone GTA, Call of Duty, and all the other games because how absolutely amazing Concord is. And everyone who thinks otherwise obviously was just a hater. And even if you were a developer and you said, wait a minute, maybe this game is not the best thing since sliced bread, you were executed on the spot by a bunch of Praetorian Guard. It was great. No wonder it flopped, though.
Before everything was, refunded and shut down. All indication was that Firewalk was going to attempt to maybe make this game free to play in a comeback effort. That indication came from some work that was happening behind the scenes on Steam for the game, but no. Sony pulled the plug. The correct decision. Concord earned little interest when it had a free beta months before its actual official launch, and it was only getting worse. Investing more into this game would just be burning money, and it looks like Sony execs finally came to the realization with not just ending the game, but also the studio. A somewhat sad but obvious conclusion to one of gaming's biggest disasters ever.
It's not sad. I am a firm believer in merit and merit-based societies. Okay? And when someone highlights Concord as great, and they flop this bad, I mean, I'm sorry, but there's no second chance.
Now, in regards to one of gaming's biggest mysteries, Valve recently opened up in a new documentary alongside never-before-seen footage of Half-Life 2 Episode 3. Celebrating the 20th anniversary of Half-Life 2, Valve revealed the glimpses of guns and enemies of the cancelled Episode 3, including an ice ray gun that kind of is like a Silver Surfer mode. As PC Gamer explains, the gist is that what happened was that they didn't know how to push the game design forward enough to make it feel worthwhile to them. That ice gun was apparently not up to Valve's standards of innovation, nor were the blob enemies that used Portal tech. In the documentary, Half-Life 2 level designer David Riller says that they were experiencing element fatigue and needed to go bigger or do something else, and thus they did. They eventually switched
and thus Valve learned to never count to 3. We know.
Their focus to Left 4 Dead and just never turned back. Gabe Newell addressed the failure, saying that they didn't just want to finish the story. My personal failure was being stumped. I couldn't figure out why doing Episode 3 was pushing anything forward. All of this Half-Life news does come hot on the heels of recent rumors and supposed leaks that, again, Half-Life 3 might be right around the corner. But
no
you really
way.
never know with Valve. Every time over the last so many years people felt Half-Life 3 was indeed coming, it ended up being something completely different. Insomniac's Marvel's Wolverine is one of the few upcoming PlayStation first-party games that we know about and have footage of. It's also a game that has been devastated by a massive hack that leaked much of the game's content to the public earlier this year. The damage, though, does appear to
completely ignored it. I am never gonna play a Wolverine game at this point.
be worsening, as the game's creative director Brian Horton has jumped ship mid-development and is now taking charge of Xbox's upcoming revival of Perfect
Oh god. Oh god. This thing. Oh god.
Dark. Marcus Smith is the new creative director of Wolverine alongside Mike Daly as game director. The duo previously worked in similar roles on Insomniac's 2021 Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. One of the other PlayStation first-party studios many are eagerly awaiting to see what they've been up to the last few years is Naughty Dog. Recently, studio head and game director Neil Druckmann revealed the secrecy.
Does anyone honestly care what the hell Naughty Dog is up to? Does anyone care at this point after the disgrace of She-Hulk being added to the series and the ending? I'm sorry, but I just don't care.
Surrounding
And also the remake that they did of this crap. Oh man, people did not love that.
this upcoming project and why nothing has been shown is largely to do with Sony asserting control over marketing, but they did give him and his team full control over their next game. A game that has been in development since 2020 and is not believed to be The Last of Us Part 3, likely their project after the one that they're working on now. Rumors about this immediate upcoming game have been rampant and wild. All we do know is that it is likely a brand new IP, and some recent rumors have claimed that this new game will have a greater degree of player freedom, which could mean anything from open world to an RPG with choices and consequences. The Elder Scrolls Online is the latest game to be embroiled in the culture wars that is just
Oh god, is he gonna talk about the non-binary companion? The Elder Scrolls Online. Hey, the people who play Elder Scrolls Online, they have my respect because they, en masse, are willing to openly admit, yeah, this game is shit. Everything about it is kind of trash, but I, I, I have nothing else to play, so I'm sticking with it, and that's fine. But it's not a good game. They just willingly, openly admit it. Respect.
Has taken over gaming the last year or so. And as we have this report coming from the gamer, the Elder Scrolls Online narrative director responds to complaints surrounding a new non
Oh yeah, we talked about this. This was horrendous. This whole post was so stupid.
binary companion being introduced. As it's noted here, Update 44 introduces the game's first non-binary companion, Tan Lauren, voiced by our
That's the first thing. Non-binary literally means nothing. There is no way to write a non-binary character because they literally have. There is no way to just introduce in the plot that they're non-binary except them just explicitly coming up to you and saying, I'm non-binary. Yeah, and I am not binary gamer.
flag means Death Star Vico Ortiz, and many individuals obviously online have voiced complaints about this thing.
Also, this was one of the reasons, that whole article was one of the reasons why, man, if you thought that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be a failure because of Starfield, holy fuck, that article just opens your eyes because the people who are pushing this non-binary crap in Elder Scrolls literally don't understand not even a single bit of the lore, okay? They're literally gonna justify non-binary being a thing because... But Daedra exist. Yeah, Daedra is literally... They're fucking gods. They can be anything. They're literally godly things, okay? They are not... They're gods. Again, gods are not tied down by things like gender. They're fucking gods.
Conclusion, saying that it's immersion breaking and that they supposedly don't fit into the world of Elder Scrolls. To that, narrative director Bill Slavicsek says they're wrong, and obviously the gamer says that this representation is meaningful, but there is a vocal minority. They're declaring it a vocal minority that are just using this as an excuse to go after LGBT themes that are being introduced into games. But this developer, this...
Oh man, the actual article is so much worse than this description of what was said.
Narrative director did say we have mixed marriages and gay and lesbian characters in abundance throughout the game Elder Scrolls Online. It just makes sense to us that all possibilities exist in Tamriel. We treat it as a real and living world. You just might not notice it because we don't shout it from the rooftops or put signs proclaiming it everywhere. And you know why?
I mean, you literally are doing it, though.
Because in Tamriel, this is just the way the world is. No character or the world blinks in.
Also, again, not at all! Tamriel is one of the most racist settings in the world. You know who loves Dark Elves? Fucking no one. You know who loves Dwarves? Fucking no one. You know who loves Dreadguard? No one. You know who loves Stormcloaks? No one. You know who loves the Nords? No one. Do you know how many of these races want to genocide the other races? Everyone. What a great inclusive setting we have there. Yeah, obviously they're gonna be completely sold with the idea of non-binary and other gay shit like that. So sold, surely.
An eye or thinks there's anything unusual about meeting the baker and his husband, the serving woman and her wife, or to have Naira and Jakarn flirt with you, regardless of your character's gender. And that's not even mentioning alchemy, the three living gods of the tribunal, or the Daedric princes who can appear as any gender they so desire. It's part of the world, and so it's no big deal. Starfield's $30 DLC Shattered Space has been met to, I wouldn't even call it mixed reviews, it's just downright.
It's met with complete apathy at this point. I thought that I'm going to be able to milk Starfield Shattered Space for at least a month. Barely could make fun of it for like 4 or 5 videos. What a disappointment. It was so bad, people literally just gave up on Bethesda. Even the people... This expansion was most likely played roughly by 6% of the people who played the original game. That is a phenomenal level of disaster.
right, probably one of the worst gaming experiences of 2024. A massive disappointment and a clear indication of concern with Bethesda Game Studios as a developer, as there seems to be a disconnect with what they're producing and what gamers actually want from them.
Yep. Yep. This was the hugest red flag ever. Because the biggest problem with Shattered Space, I mean, the prelude to that was already visible in just Starfield in general when they did the updates. Because not in a single update they actually addressed any issues that people wanted to be addressed. The weapons, the skills, the exploration, the layouts of places, the dialogues. They didn't address any of that. Because they think it's already perfect. And fuck you, by the way, for not thinking that, right? And then Shattered Space came, where they literally just quadrupled down on everything already existing, and surprise, surprise, people still hate it. And now these same people are making Elder Scrolls 6. There you go. It's over.
And then there's also the quality issue with Shattered Space, which it just was not good at all. And obviously recently we discussed on the channel some of the reactions coming from one of the lead developers on Shattered Space, and it was just not satisfactory at all, as it seemed to be that Bethesda was doubling down and they seemed to love the expansion, even though it was being met to overwhelmingly negative reviews from users. And
again, roughly only 6% of people came back to this expansion. That is a huge disaster. Typically, the minimum amount of players that should come back to an expansion of a game is like 25-ish%. Usually a lot more if it's a decent game, but for Shattered Space, barely 6% came back. And that is insane because of one simple reason. Because most people had the expansion for free. They didn't have to buy it.
Quite a negative critic reception as well. Recently, though, via Phil Spencer, the Xbox head, he gave some insight into how Todd Howard himself has reacted to this expansion, and if you're expecting that Bethesda...
Todd Howard literally pushed himself away from the expansion. Todd Howard was so proud of Starfield when it was coming out, and then for the expansion, guess how much he talked about it? Guess how much? Nothing. He literally just abandoned it. Smart move, Todd. Smart move.
Bethesda was learning lessons or going to change or pivot or do anything different. No, it's not happening. As Games Radar reports, after Starfield Shattered Space's mixed reviews, Todd Howard wondered if Bethesda should have waited to put buggies out. Yes, Todd Howard thought those land vehicles that they put out, he thought that was a mistake. Maybe it held back the...
Bro, no, he probably thought, wait a minute, we should have put that in the expansion and that would have made people love it. Bro. Listen.
The reception, I guess, as the report goes on to mention, as Microsoft gaming lead Phil Spencer reveals in an interview with GameFile, Howard was worried the rover's earlier debut as part of a free update was a bad decision on his part. Todd and I were talking about Shattered Space, states Spencer. Starfield is a game I put a ton of hours into and really love, but they've had this...
Imagine everyone in unison around you is yelling that Shattered Space is shit, and you're like, well... We probably put the rover out too fast, and that's why people don't like this. Oh, Bethesda is so dead. Bethesda is literally so dead.
Thing where they've added features throughout the year, and then they had an expansion.
But hey, on the bright side, Microsoft only had to pay, what, 8-9 billion for them, so, not a big deal.
And then he goes on to say that Howard was questioning himself, saying, I think some of the feedback on the expansion is we wanted more features, which definitely was a critique, but it wasn't the main critique. And he's like, well, should we have waited to put buggies out? The Bethesda had figured keeping the vehicle for the DLC could have helped flesh it out more, but the problem is that the game wasn't built around the buggies, and to be fair, the buggies within Dazra, the main location of this expansion, really didn't do anything, and really they were buggy themselves.
No, they just don't work, because the expansion was not made with a buggy in mind, so traversing in it is just a hindrance to most people.
Spencer continued saying, and so I think you're trying to tune both development effort and the impact of the expansion, and I think there will always be a balance to managing the game month to month, but not every game will do expansions. And again, this is just another unsatisfactory response coming from Bethesda Game Studios in regards to this expansion, which in my mind was quite horrible. But it goes much further, because Phil Spencer also talked about manipulative expansions and his dislike of it, which is just rather interesting after they sold a $30 DLC in the form of Shattered Space. Again, in another recent interview, the Microsoft Gaming CEO said that there's no top-down mandate on expansions, and not every game will do expansions, which that's reasonable. It's really left
That sounds like a blatant lie, by the way, just FYI.
the creators regarding what plan they have for their stories. I think it's a great way for us to re-engage players who may be lapsed. I don't like expansions that are manipulative. I want it to have a unique point of view. I don't want it to be like the third level that you cut before you launched. So like Starfield, because House of Varun quite literally feels like it was cut from the base game experience and then sold in a $30 expansion, which really didn't get much. It just didn't stand out on its own at all, and it didn't feel like it was worth that $30. Even from those who actually, the minority that did enjoy Shattered Space, a lot of them come to the agreement that probably should have been sold for about 15 to 20 bucks. It would have made a lot more sense, but $30, that's just insane, especially with the experiences on the market with the expansions that do so much more, from Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree to the Witcher 3 expansions, or even last year's Phantom Liberty from Cyberpunk 2077, which totally transformed the game in a way that I think a lot of people wanted to see with Starfield, but it never happened.
Oh man, the best part of Shattered Space was the cope of the Bethesda fanboys that were saying, "Wait until Shattered Space drops. It's gonna be a cyberpunk redemption story. Just you wait." That was probably my favorite part of the Illusions.
Happen, and it doesn't seem like it will ever happen. Now, following the massive success of the Fallout TV show earlier this year, Xbox boss Phil Spencer also explained why not having a new Fallout game ready for the Fallout TV show's launch actually worked out for the best. And again, in another recent interview, this time with Inverse, he said, "We didn't have a new game lined up for the launch. I actually think that gave us some creative liberty that we wouldn't have, and if we tried to coordinate production of two very different creative processes to land at the same time," which I feel like is just copium with the fact that they don't have any new Fallout experiences on the way. It's just Fallout 76. And
they literally pushed Fallout's for the next-gen update, which was not a next-gen update, and it just broke a lot of shit and made the game worse for most people, and Bethesda is not fixing that, because everyone already bought it. Jesus Christ, though. But by the way, if Bethesda is the highest form of damage to Bethesda that Bethesda can receive, but the second highest form of damage is probably... I mean, Bethesda in the Fallout franchise is potentially lost forever now, because of the, I don't know, lucky success of the Fallout TV show, because that shit just influxed so unbelievably many tourists into the game. And I mean, it's fucking over. The TV show already has done absolutely irreparable damage to the lore of Fallout. How the war started, the reasons for the war, retconning a lot of motivations for characters. New Vegas is just gone because Todd Howard is a spineless cuck who is afraid of its existence. You know, there are so many things. Ghouls got retconned, Vaults got retconned, everything kinda got retconned. And for what? Nothing. Not really anything. Everything has, like, the Brotherhood has been turned into complete retards. In the games, the Brotherhood at least were semi-cohesive retards, but now because of the show, the Brotherhood is like just, okay, who's the most autistic person we can put in charge? Ah, Timmy, I see you're drooling while eating a radroach. That's our candidate for leader, let's go. Yeah, it's... The Fallout TV show has just done irreversible damage to the Fallout lore and existence, and that's it. And this is... And it's gonna show, because one of the things, I have talked about the TV show many times, but one of the things the TV show did do, and it's arguable if is it good or bad, but it has decided to push on the Fallout series forward. Because essentially season 1 ends with the idea that, hey, energy is going to be restored to the wastelands and whatnot, so there you go. There's actually, the story of Fallout is going to be pushed forward, because the story of Fallout currently has not exactly been pushed all that forward. It's a bunch of self-contained, technically, stories, except 3, which is probably the biggest thing that happens in lore, but everything else is kind of who gives a fuck, honestly. So the story is going to be pushed forward, but do we want a story like this pushed forward where people can just be made into ghouls by injecting some magical serum, and ghouls are these immortal beings, and now they need to take this magical fucking cure, otherwise they become feral and all of that shit? Probably not. Probably not in the slightest, but that's what we're getting. That is what we are getting.
And based on Fallout Day, which happened just recently, we're going to talk about that in a separate video in the future very soon. It literally is just Fallout 76 and the TV show for the foreseeable future. Obviously, there's been...
Fallout 76 has nothing even remotely interesting in it. Oh, I almost forgot. Fallout 76. If Fallout is going to be pushed in the future, it's no longer going to be Fallout. It's going to be just, you know, a bare bones skin of Fallout just walking around. Because you see, if you don't play Fallout 76, you probably don't know this. But Fallout 76 is no longer the nuclear apocalypse. The theme of, hey, a nuclear apocalypse happened and, you know, now the world's a wasteland is non-existential in Fallout 76. Fallout 76 is full-on Cthulhu mythos. Every storyline, almost every location, is some kind of, ooh, creepy culty things happening, ooh, eldritch beings, ooh, gods, and stuff like that. That is literally it. Fallout is no longer about the apocalypse, even in super mutants, or mutants in general. It's just about eldritch shit and mystery. And I don't know, I think that could be the general future of Fallout, I think, in general. Just a bunch of eldritch beings, and that's kind of it.
Some hope that a Fallout 3 or New Vegas remaster may be on the way, but there's been zero indication of that from Bethesda Game Studios the last couple of years. And I think this is just an example of Phil Spencer playing the PR game, because yes, it is a missed opportunity to not capitalize with a new project. Obviously, Fallout 4 and 76 have enjoyed some greater success because of the TV show, but a new experience, a new game, a remaster, something would have done wonders for this company this year. Now, in other news regarding Bethesda, we've also seen that the company is going on strike, or a certain amount of employees. As The Verge says, workers at Bethesda parent company strike over remote work policies. We've been seeing this across the industry the last number of months. It isn't just Bethesda. We also saw this at Ubisoft. A lot of employees at these companies...
Ubisoft is dead. I'm completely okay with that.
Especially during the COVID pandemic, left the main cities that they were working at with these studios, which tend to be very expensive, and they lived on the outskirts, probably for lower, rent and stuff. And now things are changing, and now a lot of these studios like Ubisoft, like Bethesda, Microsoft, they're requiring employees to come back into the offices, but...
Dude, there is no... Developers are some of the laziest shits in any industry, honestly. You know what's the reality? These companies don't actually force crunch or anything. It's just the fact. And by the way, I still don't understand how people are not don't understand this idea. But dude, how many times have we heard these stories of developers coming out and saying, "Oh yeah, we were supposed to deliver this game in 5 years. For the first 2.5 years, we literally did nothing. None of us did anything. We just sat around and literally did nothing because we had plenty of time. Then we had to start rush things because, well, we actually need to make something." That is the story so many times. And that's where crunch comes in. And everyone's, oh, crunch is bad. These developers are doing it for themselves. Amazon Game Studios. Not the greatest of studios. They make a lot of shit and whatnot, and a lot of buggy shit. But the reality is, their buggy shit is not really too much worse than something that Bethesda pumps out. And they don't actually have crunch, because they actually have a work schedule and things like that. Because, surprise, surprise, work schedules actually do something in work. Other companies don't. So, yeah. These game developers are being pushed back into the office because if they don't do shit in the office, You can bet that they're not going to do anything outside of the office and working from home. So, yeah, all of these developers have to come back because otherwise they're never going to achieve anything. Oh, God, Bethesda is just such a sad existence. In any case, that was Legendary Kill HD. 10 out of 10. Bye.